Hey everyone, welcome to Tell It Like It Is Tuesday, where I pick one topic that I've been thinking about or I've been seeing that I try to find some insight and just kind of give some really basic tips and tricks for whatever we're going to talk about. So I'm going to share this really quick, and I would love if you would do the same. So if you are someone that maybe is in a management position, or you're a mom, or you're working on building a team, even like within your friends, when we look at, maybe in your church, like there's so many opportunities for us to lead, and we really forget what it means to lead. Sometimes we get really far into the weeds and trying to manage, which is a completely different mindset. So tonight I wanted to talk to you about what I feel are the lessons that we can learn from being a parent, or at least similarities that we can find that I guarantee you, if you're a mom, that a lot of times you don't bring to the workplace. I know myself, I keep a lot of things very separate if at all possible, but there's so many things that we can learn from, like how we interact with our kids to being a really good leader. And that can be, in a school, in a PTA, in a, workplace, wherever it may be. So these are just a few quick ones. I only have 3 of them. And you can check out the rest on my blog when we're done. I'll post this below. But the funny thing is, I actually forgot all of my notes in a notebook that I have at work. So we're going to wing it a little bit. But one of the things Millie asked me the other day, she says, "Mom, do you like being a mom?" I'm like, of course you're running all through these things with your head and you're like, I love it. I also hate it sometimes. It's like the most challenging and the most rewarding job, like all the same time. Sometimes it's separate times. But like managing people, it can also be the same challenging and rewarding experience. So what I wanted to give you is a couple quick tips on, what we can learn from parenting and how we can apply that in a leadership position, wherever that may be. But the goal with leadership versus management is teaching, guiding, encouraging, discipline, building, leadership. All of those things are in that leading side, and not so much management side. Management side, you get some kind of icky feelings about that, and there's a lot of authoritative things that go with that. So when I'm trying to work with my kids, and even from a management perspective, I try to understand that there's differences, there's a learning curve, there's all these different sorts of things. So the first similarity and lesson that you can learn from being a parent is to fail forward. Okay? So what I mean by that is that, we think about babies, okay? Babies, they learn to slowly roll over, and then they learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk, and then they learn to run, and then they're like my kids and they're crazy and all over the place. But what is happening is they're failing every time. They don't just roll over, and then they don't just get up and walk. There's a consistent pattern here where they're learning and evolving, taking one step at a time, refiguring their balance out. Okay, this doesn't work. Okay, I get this. Here's where I'm going to take my next step forward. So sometimes you have to fail in order to really learn how to move forward. So a lot of times we look at failures as a setback or a step down, but in reality, it's an opportunity to grow or learn in a different way. So when we look at our teams, or, even our kids, like how often do we expect them to be perfect or come to us with getting everything right on the first try? It's very unrealistic. We don't expect our kids to just get up and walk. We expect them to fail and learn from that. If they don't learn, that's the problem. But when we're expecting them to fail forward, we're expecting them to get up and try again and kind of learn from their mistakes. So why can't we do that with our teams? Okay, everyone makes mistakes. We made mistakes. We learned almost, I'm sure, by making mistakes. I know I'm a victim of learning the hard way. Victim or culprit, I'm not sure. But Ask my dad, he'll tell you, yep, she liked to do things the hard way. She had to figure it out for herself. So what I'm trying to say is help your team fail forward. Help them get comfortable without being so focused on perfection. There's a quote by Mark Twain, and I wish I had written it down, and I did in my other notes, but it basically says the main thing about writing is crossing things out. So what he's saying is like, you write, be innovative, be creative, be spontaneous, keep going, and then you can edit it later. That doesn't mean you put out things that aren't, press ready or, whatever it may be. It just means that don't, short sell yourself by having the stigma of perfection. It really, really limits innovation. When Zach broke his leg and had to learn to walk again, it took him a few times in a different approach. He took a different approach than he did when he learned how to walk. His muscles were different. His, body composition was different. He learned a different way again. And that's because, he had to fall a few times. So help your teams to fall/fail to really help them learn. Like, get them to try, get them to, get themselves out there so they can. Like, there's plenty of things that have been so unsuccessful, and not just from, an adult standpoint, but there's a lot of things that as a kid, I'm like, dang, I really messed that up. But you know what? I learned to duck next time, or I learned whatever it was. They have a book out called Fail Forward by John C. Maxwell, which is on my holds list on Overdrive. If you haven't come across Overdrive yet, it's amazing. It's like Audible without all the expense, and you can rent from your library. So quick side note, but the first thing is to help your kids or your team or your coworkers fail forward. Help them learn by failing, okay? The second thing is to focus on leading and empowering versus controlling or micromanaging, okay? So when we talk about management a lot, I'm not saying this of all managers by any means, but what I'm saying is that oftentimes we are so specific. Okay, it has to be done this way. It has to be done this way. We need to do it like this. And you keep people like in this shell, and they're just like order takers, and they're like, okay, like this isn't fun anymore. So we get into a habit of like making decisions for people. Okay, this is how you have to learn how to walk. This is how I'm going to make your foot move. This is how I'm going to make your arm moves. And for some people, like that doesn't work, and it really creates a lot of like anger around it. Like, I know that I had instruction from my parents on some things like, okay, it needs to be this way. It needs to be this way. And I was like, like I just wanted to break out of this. And it really just got me on like edge about things. But we look at our kids, and we can provide support. Okay. Like you hold their hand or they hold your finger. We can provide support while allowing them to be creative, okay? So you as a manager, you can decide to dictate and keep them inside that box, or you can create an opportunity for them, okay? Dictate versus create. Dictate is like holding them, the entire way, like moving their legs one at a time, okay? Like nobody has time for that, and nobody learns well from that. When you allow them to create, allow them the opportunity, relinquish the control to figure these things out for themselves, they become so much more innovative and creative. I mean, perfection is completely unattainable. We're not perfect. We may not have the best decision. There may be a new idea that somebody has or a new outlook that we're limiting by trying to control them or manage them. And then everybody misses out, okay? When we all learn, we all grow. Everybody learns from somewhere, okay? So there's more than one way to get somewhere. That's my big point. I think that there are successful people because they have learned from someone else and reinterpreted or redefined whatever that was that they learned. They did a study a long time ago, like in the 1970s, about the hierarchy of needs. And so we got to remember that people are people, right? Like we're not managing like an ant farm. And we're not managing, something, very insignificant and lack of complete emotion. People have an innate desire to be heard, to be social, to feel secure, to feel safe, to be, motivated and have those tendencies to be attracted to certain groups of people or certain styles. So it's our job to help lead and empower, in our own way. We don't have to accommodate our management style, so to speak, but be open and be visible in a way that helps people see that there's more than one way and you're there to help guide them. That doesn't mean you have to show them the exact way to do it, because there is no one way to do something. Lead and empower in a way that people are motivated and inspired. And that is tremendous. When people are like, yeah, I'm on board with it. Yeah, me too. All of a sudden things start moving and people can identify with each other in a different way. And that's really what, teams are all about, is being able to, work together and kind of build off of each other. The third thing that I'm going to share with you tonight is about the safe spots. So if you're a parent of a toddler or anyone like my kids, you find these safe exploration spots. I think that's the key word these days. So you have, a bounce house, there's, padded floors, there's guards for the corners. You want to let your kids be kids and you want them to fall safely, right? I always laugh when people are walking around behind their kids and I'm like, let them fall. They're not really going to do that much damage. And I've handled a broken leg, so I can say you'll get through it even if it happens. But sometimes they got to learn the hard way. Don't jump off stuff. Not a good plan, right? They did a study, it was a few years back now, but Google did a study for a few years on thousands and thousands and thousands of employees. And what they found is that employees that feel safer with team members, when they feel safer with team members, they're more likely to admit their mistakes, they're going to back each other up, and they're going to take on new roles. So that's huge when you look at teams, because a lot of times you get in these perfection modes where you're saying, it wasn't me, it was because, it was them, it was this. And all of a sudden it creates all these breakage points within a team and all this animosity. But when they're feeling empowered and led, like we talked about before, and they're in this safe space, they're like, yeah, man, I messed up. Or you know what? I don't get this. I remember high school thinking I could never be that person that stood up and said, I don't get it. And now I'm, as an adult, yeah, I don't know what you're saying. I don't get that. Okay. It's so important to feel like you are in a safe environment, that, your team's got your back, that you can, help each other out. Parents, they hide knives and they block sharp edges and they keep cords out of reach. Okay. So as a leader, it's important for us to be cognizant of, negative team feedback or, shank under the table comments or, just a lack of praise. Those are the adult workplace equivalents of sharp knives and, rough corners. Okay. That to people makes them feel unsafe. They feel, super guarded. They don't do their best work when they feel shut down or enclosed. So the number 3 is creating a safe space. Hey, let's talk about that. What are you thinking about that? That doesn't mean that there's no room for disagreement. That doesn't mean that there's no room for other opinions. It doesn't mean, if you are in a management position, that you can't have some authority over a situation or, guide things in a certain way. But it does mean that you're open and you're listening and saying, okay, I get what you feel and I hear what you're saying. And then, proceed to, dialogue about whatever the issue may be. But when people feel safe and heard and understood, they're like, okay, I feel really good about this. When people lack the ability to praise their employees or, their team or, say, hey, that was a dumb question. It just continues to really create barriers all across the board and in so many different ways. And, same thing with our kids, where if we, don't allow them, if we're don't touch that, don't do that, watch out for that, don't go there. We're just limiting their ability to truly explore and be creative and innovative and feel like they're in control of their own destiny. People that are in control of their own destiny, when they feel like that, are more empowered to do better work, longer work, You know, there's so many positive chain reactions that happen out of people that really feel good about what they're doing, and how they're being appreciated, how they're being motivated and supported. You know, it gets them excited to come to work every day, or it gets them excited to, you know, want to do a team challenge, or, you know, all of these different things. It's one of those, you know, fundamental emotional needs that, you know, many people have, whether they recognize them or not. But these are just 3 of my ideas when it comes to this that I'm, you know, thinking, okay, what is it that we do with our kids that, you know, other people need? You know, and one of the things I always noticed about my kids versus others, we were laughing, we were at a photography shoot the other day for Christmas pictures, and my kids love to compete. They don't even care really what the prize is. They just want to compete, you know, and I can say like ready, set, go at almost any point and they will take off running. But not all kids are like that. Not all team members are the same. I had a room of kids that we were, you know, I think there was like 4 of them, and we're like, okay, ready, set, go, let's clean up. And like, I mean, it was like pin drops. They're like, really? Like, for what? Like, what am I doing? What am I racing for? And that's the same thing with our teams. They all have different motivators. They all have different needs. So as a leader or a manager, it's really important to try to identify with them on a personal level what their goals are, but more so like what their needs are. You know, you don't have to flat out ask them that, but really be aware of the type of motivation that inspires them and motivates them, because it's so important. Things will skyrocket when your team comes together and feels that, or your kids, even your kids, when they're feeling like, yeah, they get it, or yeah, I can explore this, you know. Ironically, most of the time it starts to tip the scales and they are a little better with rules, you know? It's crazy how that works out. But I put together these 3 because I've been thinking about it for a little while, and I will be posting the blog when I finish with my notes tomorrow. It's at work, but I'm going to post it in the comments. So if you have questions or thoughts or ideas, I would love to hear them. You know, what are some of your parenting blunders, or what are some things you've learned about leadership that helps motivate your team? I would love to hear them. Please comment below. Share this video if you feel that it's valuable. And I appreciate you guys watching. I hope that, you know, we can all gain some things from our kids, and remembering to just let them be kids. You know, let people be the people that they were meant to be and really have the power to be, without micromanaging them into a hole. Because nobody can be what they need to be then. And nobody can really produce what you want for your team or for your company or for your family when they're, you know, shrunk down to something so small that they don't feel like they have a say in things. I guarantee you, when people feel motivated and inspired and encouraged and listened to, you know, and safe, they do amazing things. And those are the types of, you know, workplaces and environments that can really, really thrive. So I hope you guys have a great night. Join me next time for Tell It Like It Is Tuesday. If you have comment suggestions about topics, please let me know. Controversial ones are fine. It produces really, really fun research for me. So thanks you guys for watching. Have a great night.